This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell. This is Season 1, Episode 9, and I'm talking with Evelyn Mulders. Today's guest has been a longtime friend. I first met Evelyn at a workshop held in Kelowna, British Columbia, where Svetlana Maskatova was teaching a course in postural dynamic reflexes. And that's now known as Maskatova Neuroreflex Integration. Evelyn had been working with Svetlana to gain insights into reflexes for some needs she had in her family. And fast forward a few years, and Evelyn was in Cochrane, Alberta, teaching at my dance studio on the power of sound and healing. Fast forward a little bit more, and I began training into the 5-element theory of Western herbs so that I could share the valuable knowledge that Evelyn had created about herbs in relation to the chakras and the meridians and the energy centers and energy lines of the body. Evelyn is a visionary. She's always dug deeper into her subjects of interest to find the deep secrets of their healing potential. The founder of the Kinesiology College of Canada and on the senior faculty with the International College of Professional Kinesiology Practice, she's been teaching and sharing tools for many decades. This is a description that might describe her to a point. Canadian energy medicine author, presenter, facilitator, and healer, she supports people in achieving both physical and emotional goals by influencing the body bubble with vibrational remedies and bioenergetic wellness techniques. I believe these words speak to the power of this amazing woman, and this should intrigue you to the conversation that's coming up. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, Episode 9, Season 1, and my special guest today is Evelyn Mulders, and we're sharing the gifts of bioenergetic wellness. Hi, Evelyn. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Michelle. When you said decades, I was like counting back. I'm like, oh, she's right. Decades.
I know, we just keep looking
the other
forward.
Day said, oh, you changed your hair color. I says, no, God gave this to me.
and COVID let me just do it naturally.
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, ditto.
Oh, so we begin each interview with a cup of tea. And as you're one of the leading Western herbalists for understanding herbs and the messages that they whisper, I'm curious to what kind of tea you decided to choose today.
I'm choosing a Michelle Greenwell tea. So I didn't go to the herbs. What did I choose? Warrior, do you have a warrior?
Releasing the warrior.
Release the warrior. That's
from the wood element. Beautiful. And what does your mug say?
Oh, you got to see this. The joy is in the journey.
Oh, awesome. That's beautiful.
Yeah. No truer words are spoken.
So our tea company, Intend to Radiate, is based on 5 elements, and it's a result of actually all the work that Evelyn has done, because Natasha and I took that work and we went to work on how to build tea blends based on some of the things that she's shared in her books. And so the tea that I chose today is Liberty Wine from the fire element. And I wanted to share today, I was thinking of you when I was putting all together what we were going to talk about. This is actually on our book, is this tea set that comes from the Orient. And David's great-grandfather bought this for his wife and had it shipped back when he was on a merchant ship. And what I love about it and the Liberty Wine tea is that when you pour the tea, it looks like he's breathing fire. So it's one of my favorite things to share when I'm doing any kind of tea exploration. So that's what I've got today. And oh, that smells wonderful. Okay. Are we ready to dive into some discussions?
What do you want to talk about, Michelle? We've got so much.
Oh my gosh.
The rainbow.
We have the rainbow. Yep. There's just so many places we can dig our hands into. So how about if we talk a little bit about the vibrational remedies? Why don't we start there? And I know behind you, you've got the banners of some of the different ways that you've been able to put these beautiful remedies in. So I'll let you go to town and talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start this. I stumbled upon this. My background in schooling was with engineering, and that's where my focus was. But as you've talked to every healer on the planet, life will take them into a different set of circumstances that move them into a different direction. And that's what happened to me. So I started off with the kinesiology, the touch for health system. And then I think I studied a little bit of reflexology, but I got real curious about flower essences. And so I was looking for a teacher in flower essences, and I found one, and I took her workshop, and it turned out that she taught a whole one-year diploma program in herbology. And her class was quite a bit different than going to sitting in a classroom. In her class, you sat outside with the plants and you got connected with the plants. And then she would tell stories about the plants. And because I never thought of myself as a good student in that thinking, I was very good with numbers and formulas, but all of the other was very, very new to me. So I started taking pictures of the plants. And then as she was discussing things, I would scribble notes on the back. And lo and behold, it became a whole recipe box of pictures with all of the ideas about the plants right there. And that was my collection. That was for my personal use. And then as I was teaching my Kinesiology College, I sort of let the students roam around wherever they wanted. And they discovered this recipe box with all the herbs in it. And they said, "Are you kidding me? There's so much information in here." And I said, "Yeah, you can use them." They says, "No, we want a book." So
I'm
all right.
I love these students, right? They just lead us along.
Yes, they do. Yeah, so I started just doing it on one pieces of paper, and then, you know, punching holes in it for a duotang and so on and so forth. And there was an opportunity that came my way that I could actually get the book published. And I got pretty excited about it because it was all the pictures from Yarrow's garden. And before all of that was happening, as a kinesiologist, I was in the clinic, and we have all kinds of body touching techniques to switch on meridians or get meridian chi flowing by switching on muscles. No, that's not right either. You better stop that. So being in the clinic and in my holistic clinic, working with biofeedback techniques, we have body touching techniques that help the meridian chi flow. But I wanted to use my newfound knowledge with the herbs. And so what I realized at that point is I would have to go study traditional Chinese medicine. So I did. I started teaching it. And then one day, I don't know what happened, but the light bulb went off and I had a little bit of a temper tantrum, and I went into my clinic and I took out all the Chinese herbs and I started bringing in the herbs that I had grown purposely for healing and started bringing them into my holistic clinic, and suddenly realized that the vibration in the whole clinic had shifted. And so I was like, this is fantastic. So I set out and I thought, well, I'm just going to find the herbs in my backyard that fit into the meridian system. And my dad's always said to me, he says, "Do you have to make everything a project?" I said, "Yeah, pretty much." So in the end, I had a chart and I presented it to the ICPKP. They endorsed it as new foundation. And then they said, "Where's the book?" So that's how that whole thing started. I don't even have one here. Yeah, so this is back in 2006. So Western Herbs for Eastern Meridians and 5-element theory.
I can't believe it's been that long already. That's amazing.
Well, what was fun with this book, I was writing it like other herbal books, having the idea of the identification pieces so that you can go forage for it. But, you know, nobody knows Latin anymore. So it just kind of felt that I was redundant of other authors. And as I was handing my book to my best girlfriend and saying, "Oh, look what I done," she's like, she was about to receive it and I pulled it back. She says, "What's up?" I says, "The herbs haven't had their say." So it took another 2 years to wait for the seasons to come through, to have a connection with the plants, to find out what they wanted to share with us, because like the plants are in co-creation with us. So their idea to help us and we're to be helping them.
Yeah. I had the same experience I was presenting for an herbology group, And they said, you know, just come and wander through the other presentations. And I had sat down with someone and we sat in the middle of the field. And then they said, now just pick one plant and spend some time with the plant. It was absolutely amazing. So I understand what you're saying, because I didn't believe that I would get messages until I took the time to really sit. And phenomenal. Yeah.
I know that in trepidation, I wasn't comfortable with it either. And I'll remember when everybody had left the house and I was going to go make my flower essence. And so I wanted to connect with the plant energy. So I tippy-toed through well, I should tell you, to be honest with you, the story kind of starts where I was enamored with arnica. And we don't have arnica in our growing area. And this one spring morning, I looked out the window and I saw a little yellow petal and I was like, what's that? And I looked out and it was arnica. And I literally got in my car and drove up and down the road to see if anybody else had arnica in their yard. So I called Yarrow and I said, how is it possible? She says, have you been thinking about arnica? I says, yes, all winter long. I want to make arnica salve. I want to do the flower essence. She says, well, you willed it. What? So I go out into the arnica patch. I'm being very careful. I'm tiptoeing. I bring my best salad bowl. I'm hoping that it's crystal. And I've got some water in it. And I sit quietly and I'm looking and admiring the beautiful little, they're gorgeous. They got little heart-shaped leaves, you know. And I'm sitting there in the patch and I'm just loving them. And I said, now I feel bad. I'm going to ask one of you to release your life to me, as I want to bring healing to people. And it was out of a Disney film. This one little flower that was sitting like this just came up and he did this. And then he turned his head ever so slightly as if to say, pick me. And I said, really, is it you? And he said, yep. He just kind of did just a little like this. And so I said, thank you. And put him in the bowl and made arnica flower essence out of that.
Wow. Amazing.
Oh, they've got so much to share, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when I listened, they said to me, they says, you know, we're good for bruising. I said, yeah, that's why I want it, because Corey's a skateboarder, right? And they said, we're also here for deep emotional bruising and spiritual bruising. And our small family had lost a family member that year. And it was like, oh, so they came to help the whole family get over the loss.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So that was my journey with Yarrow. And I spent some time with her. And then one day she sent out, I think it was all by phone back then, a message that she was having a vibrational healing workshop. And I'm like, a what? I said, it doesn't matter what she teaches. I was so in love with that woman that I would go to at any lengths to take any training she was offering. And so at it was a 2-day workshop. And in the evening, she gave us this treat, and it was to what we know now as a sound bath. I had never seen a crystal bowl in the 90s. And so she had this sound bowl keeper come, and she played the bowls, and I could feel every cell in my body just tingle and shift. And I wasn't sick or anything, but I knew that I was to be changed in that moment. And remember, I'm engineer, I'm still left brain. I'm just barely moving into this new idea that we have, you know, a right brain. And so I said to the teacher, I said, I just loved what we heard last night. And I said, I want to bottle it. Can you bottle sound? And she says, I don't know, Evelyn, that's up to you. So that's how it started. It took a couple of years to figure it out. I was going to do it with electronics and meters and things. And it just turns out that I used the crystal bowls for the first set. And as I sounded the bowl, and you can do this yourself, you'll find that the water will look like it's boiling. It's boiling with vibration. Mm-hmm. And then I just brought it home and in a jar. So I had 7 jars. And I phoned up my girlfriend, the same girlfriend. And I said, I don't know. She says, what have you got? I said, I don't know. I just got some bottled sound. I know it's there because I saw the color red when it was poured for the C note. She says, well, how many do you have? I said, 7. She says, well, those are for the chakras. I said, what's a chakra?
Oh, I love it.
And as the journey began.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, yeah, coming from engineering background and science base, and just that linear thinking, you know, you've dove into this world of right brain, circular, no time constraints. You know, it's just wow. Yeah,
That's a big leap.
big
That's a
leap.
big leap.
Yeah, but
So
also a
yeah,
way to combine. You know, to really be able to, for you to be able to figure out how you would put your formulas together, and then how you wanted to integrate that information. So,
well, Michelle, I don't think it had anything to do with me at all. So I just found myself finding gemstones and not knowing anything about chakras. I was guided as to which gemstone to put into the water. Then I had to find the symbols of these chakras that had to go in the water. The sacred geometry went into the water. And I knew a little bit about essential oils, so that wasn't so hard. So then the whole thing evolved. I mean, the first essences were like a flower essence. They were drops under the tongue. And what I loved about that is that you could marry them with flower essences. So they kind of potentize the flower essence, and then the flower essence kind of individualized your sound remedy, right?
mhm.
But now they've moved into spray bottles, easy to use, just shake it and mist it. But yeah, that's how the chakra essences were created. And I thought my work was done there, to be truthful. I was still busy with my clinic. I still was teaching the Touch for Health system, and then moved on into a senior faculty for the ICPKP with the bioenergetics. And I still do that. It's teaching a 4-year diploma program through that system. So I thought that was good, but nope. About another 4 years later, I was told to make meridian essences. And there's a fellow that called me, a student of mine, and he phoned me and he said, I woke up this morning to tell you 2C. And I says, 2C? He said, I have no clue, Evelyn. That's all I got for you, but you will know when the time comes. So one morning I go to my clinic and I'm full on with students, full on with lunchtime clinics. And my receptionist says to me at the time, she says, today's the day you're making your meridian essences. I says, no, I said, I have to even teach tonight after supper. It's too big of a day. She said, I don't care what your day looks like. She says, today's the day. And I said, okay. And I said, so I got the students busy. You know how us good kinesiologists can get our marking done while, bioenergetic wellness people can get our marking done while the students are busy. Well, I took that time to come back to the receptionist and I says, okay, well, I've got the sounded water. I've already got that prepared. I said, and I know the herbs now to go in it because I wrote the book, Western Herbs for Eastern Meridians. And so I said, just scoot off to the naturopath and go ahead and get some homeopathics. Homeopathics, 2C. That's what that guy was talking about. So that's the formulation, 2C. She says, I'm not doing that. And I said, well, why not? She says, because you have to make them. Well, I says, I'm not a homeopath. She says, but you're an herbalist. I says, are you serious? You want the herbal remedies first and then we're going to make the homeopathy? She said, yeah. So I found every single one of those herbs with the exception of golden seal and myrrh in my back room that had already been grown, already been harvested, already been dried, sitting there ready. So that night between that teaching and me going out and teaching another workshop in Kelowna, I had 27 remedies macerating on my deck outside. So I get to the story gets better. So I get to the chakra workshop that I'm teaching in town, and the girls won't come into the classroom until they want me to do something they want me to do. I said, come on, it's been a big day. Let's get started. You know, the old Dutch teacher, she's ready to go. And they says, no, we're not going up there till you come down here. And I said, what's so spectacular? And they pointed to the sky. It was the first lunar eclipse of the 21st century.
Oh my goodness.
So that was the day I had to make the remedies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got the alchemy infused. So I don't think it's up to me, Michelle. I'm basically told what to do.
You just follow very well. Just open it all up and let the path go. Which, for those people that are listening that aren't used to doing the work in the energy field, a lot of what we do is spend our time assisting people to find flow and to let go of that grip that they're holding on to things, and being able to allow the universe to show us a few things. So you're the epitome of everything will be shown to you and the timing will be right.
I don't even realize that, you know, you just live in trust, and you just, I once was told you'll have everything you need before you need it. And that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. And I remember our friend Bev Hunter doing some educational kinesiology workshops, brain gym stuff, and brain gym workshops. You can edit that one. She does brain gym workshops. And she was with the teacher that brought nothing with her. And the teacher believed that all of her props and all of her tools the students would be bringing to class. She just knew that she'd have everything she needed to teach the class. And I thought, boy, that's trusting.
Mm-hmm. And it works for me the same way too. And sometimes I pick things up to go into my dance bag, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm taking this today. And sure enough, halfway through class, all of a sudden, oh, that's in the bag. And I haul it out and away we go. And that was the direction we needed to go. It wasn't in my head at the time, but
you listened, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it always pays off beautifully. Yeah, exactly.
And some of the remedies were created like that. One of the aura harmonizers called, we used to call it Reiki Revolution, but it changed its name to Spiral Energy, which I think kind of tells you more about what it's about. So this young woman she's phones me from way up north. She's going to do a workshop in Vancouver, and she'd like to shadow me. And I says, what does that mean? Well, she says, I want to hang with you, and I want to come to your clinic and just be with you. And I said, well, I said, I live in 400 square feet. If you're okay with the couch, you're very welcome. And so she came, and she stayed, and she shadowed, and it was getting close to her going home. And I says, what was the purpose of you coming? Is there something you'd like to accomplish? She says, yeah, with the biggest smile on her face. She said, I'd like to make a remedy. I says, well, that's fantastic. I said, what's it going to be about? She says, well, I just got my Reiki masters. Could it be about Reiki? And I said, well, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I make most everything with sound, but let's try it. And so we went through the process, and sure enough, the stone that we wanted to put in it was ammonite, which is that big spiral energy stone coming from Alberta. That was right there. And it was right on my table, in my 400 square feet, right? Not in my clinic. So that was part of it. And then we did go to the clinic later to make her some labels. And I says, what do you want to put on the label? She says, the Chakra Ray. And I says, no, we're not allowed. That's all. No, she says, Ev, she says, times have changed. That's all become open now. I says, really? Anybody's allowed to use it? She says, well, I'm just taking these home to my family, so let's just do it. And I said, sure. And so I thought I was making this remedy for her and her friends. So Monday morning rolls around, and I'm in the clinic, and I've got this woman that's got massive face pain on her. And every time I was working on her, she would jump, and it kind of was startling. And so I was doing my finger moaning from my bioenergetic feedback work. And I found spiral energy. So I was all about to do the process, spin right, spin left, in, out, big, small. I went, wait a minute, I've got some spiral energy we just made on the weekend. I'll be right back. So I shook the bottle as I was walking through the threshold of the door, and the woman yelped. I said, what? She says, the minute you came through the door, she says, my pain was gone, just like that.
Oh,
and
my.
so there this woman traveled all that way, spent time with me to help manifest the spiral energy remedy. Courtney Scaly, thank you.
Oh my goodness. I'm thinking about that time I came for a visit with you, and I was was researching about the assemblage point. I had found different pieces on it, and it seemed like it should mix somehow with the figure 8 pattern, but I'd never heard of the toroidal pieces. And I sat down to describe that to you, and you said, oh yes. And then we got into this whole discussion. But at that time, then the assemblage point, the shamans would put into place by using their stone wands on the body and moving it across. And you said, oh, we should be able to do that with a spray. And that's when we grabbed Infinity and Flower of Life and spray the two at the same time. And all of a sudden, the assemblage point just shifts for the body. So for those people that are listening that are going, what is an assemblage point? So we have an energy point where energy comes in through the body in a figure 8 pattern and flows in and out through, and it's within the chest area, but it can shift, and it can shift over towards the shoulder or go up or go down. And some people have mapped it for people who have more euphoric kind of feelings or people who have more depressive kind of feelings. And so if it gets a little bit off of center, then you have a lens that you see life through, or you experience things, and it might not be where you want to be. So bringing the assemblage point back into line means everything flows well. So it's a good thing to have in line, and those two sprays, just spray and yeah. And
so since our visit, I was teaching a class, and there was a young man that was very technical. He was actually working in the store where the classroom was, and he overheard the conversation, and he scooted into the computer, and he built a chart, and the chart was in degrees, right or left, up and down, and what the angle of the intersection point was. And so since then, with that chart, what I've just used is I can use dowsing, but I use the pendulum, and I just assess where the person is. Not that I really care what how much centimeters it shifted and what it means. I'm just gauging before and after. So then when I use the two sprays, I have them here, Infinity and Flower of Life, you just shake them and then spray them front and back. And then you reassess to see the change. And myself, I got hit by a snowboarder this winter. And I mean, they put me a hole in the spinal board, down the toboggan, into the ski patrol shack, into the ambulance, into the hospital, MRI, COVID time. My partner couldn't be there for me. And then, there was soft tissue damage, but my head's not been the same. And so I knew that when I got back home, that I checked the assemblage point, use those two sprays, Flower of Life and Infinity, and it's helping get my body back into place. And so on a personal level, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
For coming to you with this crazy question and didn't know why it was going to be valuable. Look at that. Yeah.
And then I went on to read, after you've given me that taste, that knowledge, I went on to read that if the assemblage point is not in place, you can't balance the meridians, the chakras, or any of the energy fields. And I had one of those, again, temper tantrums, because I'm like, I've been trained in energy work for 20 years, and there's not one person in my journey that has mentioned the importance of the epicenter of our entire electromagnetic field. And now I pretty much check in with every client I have to see if that epicenter or assemblage point is in its right place, because then I know that my work is going to take more of an effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've noticed the same as well. And I've also had the experience, and we experienced it that day too, was sometimes you have an experience in your life that will flip that assemblage point right off the body, and the energy field is somewhere else. Usually it's above the body, and it's like it flipped you upside down. So for people that are listening, they can't see my hands, what would be the feet would be up over top of the head. And I've had on several occasions had to use that spray to flip it back down, and it's just like somebody takes the cover off, and it's like, oh, is that what the world looks like? And all of a sudden the colors are different, and breathing is different. It's it's very powerful.
All of the senses come back alive, because you're in your own bubble, like what you talked about at the beginning. You're in your own bubble. You're not beside yourself anymore. So yeah, it's almost like you can smell, you can see, you can hear, and you can, you open up your heart a little bit more too, because I think the assemblage point sits in the tiny space of the heart. That's some of Melchizedek's work. And that's where the light comes from. And so as as that gets expanded, then the light from the heart can then shine to the pineal. And when that connection happens, that's how we get more connected with our intuition, and can help, it helps us transcend, I guess, into fourth and fifth dimension, which is where we're working at these days.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want to explain a little bit about holographic? Because that's one of the things too that you translated. So you started with these remedies, and you had meridians, and you had chakras, and then you had some pieces that you didn't know where they quite went until you discovered they were all really part of the auric field. So you want to talk a little bit about the holographic?
Yeah, that was marvelous. Like the meridians and the chakras, they were kind of okay. But then when Courtney Scaly came, we had the spiral energy, and then Infinity arrived. And then there was one called The Secrets of the Universe that was help you let go of old belief systems. And then of course, Aura Joy, it's like the rescue remedy. And I was kind of frustrated because they didn't have a place. And then one day I was driving, and the rain was really going fast, and the windshield wiper was going back and forth. And I saw them literally all fit into like the half circle, like you see from behind me, into the 7 bands of the auric field. And I was on my way to see a shaman that day, and I threw open the door and I said, put the tea on. I said, we got work to do. And sure enough, it had taken like 5 or 6 years then at that point to develop all the remedies for the auric field band. And when they nestled into their place and I saw where they fit, that created a whole system for sound essence. And now I called it the 3 dimensions of sound essence. The meridians are the up and down dimension. They're working on the physical body. And that's what the meridians do. They run up and down. And the chakras run front and back. So they're on the emotional aspect. And of course, the auric field surrounds us, it's side to side. So that's typically the 3 dimensions. And there's not a lot of work out there that puts the meridians in with the chakras, so this is a new concept back in the day when I wrote the book, The Essence of Sound. But then, I don't know, the hologram. You asked about the hologram. Kimberly Maroney, author of Angel Blessings, she phoned me randomly one day, and now we're talking just a little bit. She said that Archangel Michael had come to see her and was given her information that the angels were no longer above us, but the veil had lifted so much, the vibration of the planet had shifted, that the angels were walking beside us. And she had these 3-hour benedictions for meditations for people to get in touch with the vibration of these 7 archangels she chose. And you remember, I'm on the top of a ski hill listening to this, right? So I'm like, oh, my skis on and my posse waiting for me. And so anyways, so I phoned her back after about, then she said, can you create a vibration so that after the people have gone through the meditation, that they can use these sprays to remind their body of the vibration held by her meditation. And I mean, that's how we use the sprays as clinicians. If the people come with their issues, we give them a good balance, and then we send them home with the vibration so that they're able to hold their vibration, even though they're going back to the same environment that created the imbalance in the first place. So I said, well, I'll see what I can do. And so I think about 6 months went by and still had her phone number. I said, no angels have fallen off the shelf. I said, no books have been gifted to me. None have fallen anywhere. Like nobody's given me anything to do with angels. I said, I don't think it's it's not in me. And so it was about 2 years had passed and still nothing. But she was convinced that I was to help her. And you'll probably remember when I took off to the conferences in Europe and the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo in Ireland, and I did a bookstore signing in what was that, Italy, in Milan. And I was staying with a fellow clinician, and she's one of the top bioenergetic wellness practitioners I would know. And she had me in her clinic, and she went ahead and was muscle monitoring my pectoralis major sternal. And then she kept doing it, and she kept doing it. She kept doing it, but she was putting it in different position each time. So finally, in the end, I says to her, I says, why are you monitoring the pectoralis major sternal so much? She says, oh, I'm holding it in 14 positions. She says, the pectoralis major sternal related to the liver is the object meridian. I want to find the reference meridian. I said, why do you care? And she says, when you find the object and reference meridian, she says, the intersection point is where you do the focus, your balancing. She says that can shift your DNA.
Just a little thing.
My job was to the floor, and I says, okay, then have your team done that with the chakras and the auric field band as well, because in my mind now we're working on 3 dimensions. And she says, no. And I said, why not? She says, I don't think they ever thought of it. I said, okay. So I scooted back home, but it was back in my mind. It was percolating. And I contacted my friend, Denise Cambiati. Her husband booked us 2 nights stay. I think he wanted us out of the house and to figure out what was going on with this object in reference. And it turns out we're working in the hologram when we do that, to make a long story short. And so we worked out a whole workshop with that. And then we used the sound essence remedies with that pattern of object and reference. And I took that idea to a holistic market and was working on some of my people that, knew the work. And they were explaining to me that the work had gone in much deeper than working with just one spray. So that amazed me. And that night I went home. That morning I woke up and I'm driving by Kalmalka Lake and I got it. The Archangel remedies are in the hologram, and they are the intersection point of the meridian and chakra. And how would you know?
That piece.
How would you know?
Yeah.
So of course I didn't want to go and market today. I was ready to turn the car around and get working on my project, but I didn't. I waited for Monday morning, and they were born, the Archangel remedies. And so she wanted Michael, Metatron, Gabriel, Raphael, Jophiel, Shamuel, and Uriel. And like I said, I knew nothing about angels, so I just chose colors for them. And then when I sent them to her, she says, "You even got all the colors right." I said, "No." I said, I closed my eyes, I used a color wheel, and I used a pendulum and pointed to which one that the Archangel wanted to be. And when you look at them and you compare them to the other sound essence remedies, they're backwards. So the chakra ones kind of go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The angels are opposite. They start at purple, indigo color, then blue, then green, then yellow, if I can do that, orange, and then red, because in the hologram, they're the reflective. So they work on the reflective dimension. Mm-hmm. So that's the 5th dimension.
Wow. And I know that when my business partner, Natasha, and I have done sound essence baths, we've been with the singing bowls all across the floor. We've got the sound that's coming through that. But then when I spray, and I'm giving affirmations, and sometimes whatever comes, sometimes it's different, their story, but bringing those together and finding those intersecting points of pieces has just been so incredibly profound. And people will say, it's that third combination that you did, which I have no idea what that was, but you can spray it again and it doesn't have the same smell the second time. It's like that moment in time. It just has that one piece and it's like, wow. And then the next time it'll be completely different. And if it's what you need, it has that aha moment. And if it's not what you're looking for, maybe someone else in the room needed it, then it's like much more subtle for you. And then that next wow will come again. Yeah, it's very profound.
Well, marrying that with other instruments like crystal bowls and tuning forks, you're just offering the body vibration, and that's all the body wants. It wants a choice, sort of like a menu or a banquet of food, if you will. And if you're missing that vibration, your energy field just reaches out and clicks it in, and that's when you get that whole euphoric feeling. And if your netting is nice and full and is in good repair, then you're not going to get that same experience a second time, because your body doesn't need that vibration. And so I get excited about that, and it gives me a sense of safety and security. Like, you can never get it wrong. You know, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to smell something that's nice that comes out of the bottles.
Exactly. Yeah. And everybody has always enjoyed, it's been one spray in the room or 3 sprays in the room. McKaylee and I, my daughter, the flower of life has been we call that our bottle of Hawaii, because the Plumera flower is just reminds us of our trip to Hawaii. And so the two of us have gone through many bottles just because that one just resonates so much. So, yeah.
That's the Plumeria, and some people called it the Frangipani. And I was inspired by that same smell when the remedy was coming forward. It had to do with the number 5, and a sand dollar represents number 5. And I was just listening for the flower, and then I remember walking down the airplane stairs in Hawaii back in the 70s, and my nose was just so full of this incredible fragrance. I mean, we had apple blossoms, but golly, nothing like Frangipani. And I remember the woman receiving us with the whole bouquet of flowers that went around our neck. They called them leis. And just smelling that lei and that whole warm, welcoming feeling. That particular remedy was called Leilana, Welcome to Earth. And I changed it to Flower of Life for people to understand. But it is a homecoming. It's the number 5. Number 5 is all about regeneration, regrowth, rebirthing. It's got 5 urchin shells in it. It's all about that growth, and yeah, that Frangipani, it'll get you every time.
Yes. Oh, now
let's talk about the cards a little bit, or
I think so. Like, I know we could go on, because sound essences have just, I've enjoyed teaching with them. I've used them in preschools as the bottle of joy. There's just been so many wonderful ways.
The star spray. I remember coming to your dance class with what were they, 4 years old?
Yeah.
And what did they call it?
Yeah. Well, would depend on which class we were in, but it might be the bottle of joy, and then it might be magic. Sometimes we called it magic. And if we were having a bad day
or something, yeah.
Yeah. And then just spray, and the whole room would transition. And there's just been so many wonderful ways that the sound essence have, had a role in my life. So yeah, let's move over to the herb cards, because these have magnified again what's possible. So do you want to talk about this new creation?
I will. I just want to finish up with the heart tones, because it's the only piece that we missed on the sound essence. I'm so sorry. But the heart, nothing ever comes in the order that you would expect. Like, the chakra essences were made first, then the meridian essences, and in the system of sound essence, they're actually first. And so we went from the auric field to the archangels. So there was that 4th dimension piece missing, and all along I thought it was just opening up the assemblage point with the 2 sprays, but it turned out that it wasn't. There was another set to be created, and I called them the heart tones. In order for you to really experience 5th dimension, you have to open up your heart center. And because that's the 5th experience is unconditional love. And we are still 3-dimensional beings. So here we are trying to ascend, but we need to open up this heart space. And we've all been burdened with certain things. So the ones that I created were cherish, passion, abundance, gratitude, forgiveness, peace, and believe. Now, these remedies were made by the alchemy bowls and jeweled water. So, and Orla Kingston's fairy essences from Ireland. So that was the inspiration for the heart tones. So now there's 5 dimensions to sound essence. And if you wanted me to go over it again, so the meridians were the physical, they're up and down. The chakras are emotional, they're front and back. The auric field is side to side. It's the mental aspect. The intuitive aspect is the heart tones, and they are working in the toroidal field, just like you explained that electromagnetic field going in and out. That's the toroidal field. And then the hologram is working with the archangels, and that's the reflective. So if you want to balance all 5 dimensions of your body, you can do that with the vibration of sound in a bottle. So while I was checking out those herbs, remember I told you I had to go back and then start talking to the herbs. So I figured, well, you know, I'm just going to start yakking or asking questions. I got some help. I didn't feel confident doing it all by myself. So I've given, oh, can't get there just a second. It'll come in. Perry Best, a shout out. Thank you, Perry, for all your help with my journey of talking to the plants. She helped also with the Infinity, and that's a whole nother story, but back to the plants. So as I was asking the plants what they wanted to share, they gave their inspiration, and I asked them for a number. I asked them if they would give me a number. And after I collected all of my material, Perry came in and she said, "What are these numbers?" And I said, "I just asked the plant for a number." "Oh," she says, "that's a chakra scale." So not only had I organized our local herbs to fit into the meridian system, with her scale of gradation, we were able to sort of categorize which herbs fit into which chakra. Now remember, all of this is just an idea. You've got your biofeedback to discern if that's appropriate for you. It's just an idea. So that's how that went. So fast tracking now, I wanted my colleagues to be able to teach these workshops in their countries. And so I developed a workshop called Western Herbs for Eastern Meridians and 5-Element Theory. It was endorsed by the IKC, so which meant that, this is a little bit before its time, it meant that I put everything on CD and DVD. Now we've got Zoom, but that meant instructors all over the world could order their package, get their certification from the IKC and teach their students. So it worked really well. Word got out, and I was at a conference in England, and I'm all set to teach 15 of the top teachers in the world. And my hostess says to me as she opens the door, she says, "You know, herbs are banned in this country, don't you?"
No.
I'm about to teach an herbal workshop, and how am I going to get the vibration of the herbs to the person to show if our muscle monitoring is going to be accurate? I had my test files with me that Denise Campiati made for each of the herbs, but I thought, well, we're not going to be working on the biochemical aspect. This is not where we're going. And what are you going to do, Ev? And I know when something so ridiculous happens that there's a big learning for me. So I just stop, I be still, I close my eyes, I flip my eyes up with my eyes closed. Boom, there I got the eye rotations, temporal tapping with the picture of the herb. And so I used that technique on these top teachers, and when they came back to assess the meridians, they were all switched on, so I knew it worked. And I think that was the day that the herbal cards were born, not that they were there yet, but that was the idea, that I just wanted the cards.
Mm-hmm. Just make it simple so people didn't have to go gather and process, and if they had access, didn't have access. Yeah.
Well, and now with COVID, you know, not trying to bring that up again, but I mean, some of us get to go outdoors, but to be able to bring nature into your own home and sit with the plant energy, it's like inviting them into your living room. And, you know, some of these plants maybe don't even grow in your area, but you can invite them. Whispering Herbs Healing Cards. That's what the box looks like. And in here, there's a little booklet, and there's a couple of ways you can do the cards. You can simply just pick a card, like my mom does every morning. She's 84, so she just picks a card, and that's her daily message. But for us clinicians, we can go through the 5 elements. Let's just get to the page. Go to the 5 elements: fire, earth, metal, water, wood, central and governing. and then find out what specific herb it is that you need, and then get the message. So this is what when you get it, this is what the deck looks like. There's 128 cards in here, so there's a lot of cards. So
it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal.
I couldn't handle it, so I just put mine on a string. I punched holes in the side of it because I couldn't keep track of them all, and then they'd be over there on that table. So I thought, no, I'm going to put them all together. I put them on a string. I know I'd never lose them.
Well, and then they're in order, because that's the other fun part too.
Well, that's what my partner said. He says everybody has to have 2 boxes, one in order and one out of order.
Yep. Oh.
So yeah, I don't know what you want me to show you with that. It just it's quite simple. You just pendulum to see what it is that you need. There's menu cards. So once you get the color, then you have the menu cards.
And those are wonderful.
Find if you're yin or yang, or light or dark, whichever you do. And then you just put the card sideways and then pendulum to see which one, you know how to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does, so.
No, so for those people that are listening, Evelyn's got cards with a list on it, and what she's done is she's just turned it sideways so that the name is kind of standing up, kind of like a little graph chart. And so she's taking her pendulum and she's just holding it over top of the chart, and the pendulum will just go in the direction of the plant that the body's looking for from that particular element. So in which case she's got wood element at the moment. What did you come up with?
Calendula, and it's so then there's a number behind it so that all the cards are numbered. So it's not hard to do because you just find the green to start with, and then I'm 108.
So it's all color coded, which makes it easy to find.
It's easy for me to open my heart to others. So happiness and generosity and the heart chakra.
Beautiful. And you already talked about the heart chakra. You talked about opening up. You talked about the value of the emotions that are in your last set that you created. Calendula comes up quite a bit. And right now with dandelions, oh my gosh, the power of the dandelions right now. And I know for a lot of people that's considered a weed, but when you actually stop to be with the dandelions, they're just so powerful. Yeah. Do you have the affirmation that goes with the dandelion? Could you find that one?
I'll look. Well, what's fun about dandelion, it's in quite a few of mine. It's in earth. I know it's in spleen as well. Okay, dandelion number 50. Let's see what it is.
I just know that
you thought I had it memorized, didn't you?
Oh, I almost do, because it comes up so often. And that phrase for a lot of people, when I'm doing a balance with someone and trying to bring the body into flow, and I'm looking for some phrasing that will help them with their goals and what they want to achieve, very often the dandelion will appear.
Well, if you're relating to goals, I have clarity of purpose and focus for all circumstances.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. And so often people don't.
Emotion is confidence. Boop, boop.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you think about the dandelion too, and you think about confidence. And for us right now, the field is just, our whole acreage here is just covered in dandelion. But if you think about confidence, you think about, I can just walk out there and just stand there. What do I need confidence for? And where do I want to go with that confidence? And just standing there, the messages that can come to you is amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The deck is amazing. It's just so beautiful. And the cards, that has like a beautiful texture on them that they just feel so good when you're holding them. Yeah, really beautiful. So they're all over my studio right now. So
well, I was over at Bev's, and she had pictures of people, and then she takes the cards and she puts the picture of the people in some of her other work, and then it's sort of like being in the well when you're doing the bioenergetics, and that's what she's doing with the cards.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Sending information.
Oh, I love it. Now, there's lots of different stories that we have, when we worked as clinicians and we worked as, or we refer to it as facilitators, but also with our students. We've got a couple of stories that really stand out, just different people that you work with.
My brain's not there yet.
Okay.
Have you got one?
Well, it was interesting because I haven't been teaching in a classroom with children for over a year. And because also when I moved to Cape Breton, I gave up teaching in my studio where I could have the sprays all spread out in the dance studio. I had forgotten about the fact that the sprays were sitting there. And that if we had a day that we needed a little burst of something, I could just spray and the whole room would transform, and away we would go with what we wanted to work on. I've been traveling from location to location for the last 10 years, and I try to carry as little amount with me as possible because it's a lot of bags to carry. So I haven't had that luxury. It's only been if somebody comes to my home. But I do have to say that when I was teaching, I had 5 dancers that were in my little studio, and we couldn't start class until they had picked their spray and we had sprayed everybody. And so just as you're saying that, that I had forgotten also about that piece. And the other part was when they came to the house in the fall, when we would start the class, it was always beautiful weather. So we spent all our time out in the garden and dancing, standing on I don't have grass here, I have herbs. So we dance on top of herbs and going out into the field as well. And so very powerful, and the kids will navigate to that. They know right away, and they'll spend all their time and sit and roll, and as adults we forget. So
well, you were asking about students, and I was going clink, 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 clink. Which one? The BioEnergetic wellness students. And I just remembered I am teaching an evening chakra workshop. And so there's I think 17 of them online, and they come from all over the world. And so what we're doing is going through each chakra each week. And so they're living in the filter of the root chakra, all about shelter and stability and boundaries. And then next week, they're all into about fluidity and dance and joy and creativity. And so they're getting the experience through their world about how the chakras affect us, so that you get an understanding deeper about the meaning of each of them. And yeah, they were just asking me if I would do one for the auric field band, because I was dangling the carrot, because the auric field band has to do with sacred geometry. You see, each one of the bands in the auric field has to do with number and a sacred geometry piece, which I've got all that work sitting here. It's been sitting here for a year. It's just percolating. I'm hoping to write that book next year. But yeah, workshops work really good. And well, if you were to ask me the one thing I'd like to do with what's going on in the world right now, I haven't figured it out yet exactly how it would work, but I would love to set a day aside where people could just call in, and I would just give them a sound balance through the ethers, take 10 or 15 minutes and make their day. That's what I'd like to do.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And it's possible. We've done a sound bath online. It is hard for the sound to be picked up if you want to hear it with your ear. But if you let go of that need to hear it and just allow yourself to experience the sound, you instantly pick up the vibration wherever you are. And that's and that's something that people don't realize, because they want to get it with those 5 senses, and not realizing that sometimes you have to let go of those senses in order for the other senses to be able to find their voice.
That's good information, Michelle. That's exactly right. Just listen with your whole body.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. We've done a weaving all the way through all kinds of topics. Some very
we're still having our tea.
Exactly. Some very advanced topics too. So for those people that may have stumbled upon the podcast and this is a world that they've never heard about before, than just to know that, you know, we've been in this field for a long time and it's always discovery, but it is a weaving, and the information you need comes to you when you need it. And what you need to do with it usually appears if you just allow it. And so if you've stumbled in and you want to know more, Evelyn, how can they find you?
Oh, good question. There's an evelynmulders.com. There's a soundessence.net. If you love the cards, I've got all the videoing of the cards, like all their movies there. Like if there's a movie for each card, if you want to go play. And that's whisperingherbs.ca. And yeah, if you want to take workshops, there's soundessencetraining.ca. So Sound Essence, just Google Sound Essence and you'll find me on YouTube or Facebook or in the Google search.
That's great. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for taking the time today and, you know, diving us into your world, because it's just so phenomenal what you've been doing. I so appreciate your work.
Well, thank you, but it's a collaborative journey, and my gift was in finding you as a friend, Michelle. So thanks for shining your light.
Oh, you know, as you say that, I had at one point when you were talking, I was thinking, because everything that you've done has been a collaborative. Somebody gave you a hint, somebody passed you a piece, and two, I know you and Denise, you know, if something needs to be figured out, the two of you go, okay, we can do this. And I had the same kind of networking happening for me as well. And what I'd like to share with you, as you were talking about those beautiful emotional sprays, the harmony tones, and I realized the work that I'm doing with the Choose Love movement is exactly those. And I had not realized how they link up to the work that I'm currently working on at the moment. So the collaborative process is opened once again.
Well, I don't want to continue us too much farther, but what you just said, it was because a woman had asked me if we could make her a remedy, and she was the keeper of all the alchemy bowls. She had over 300 alchemy bowls. And I said, well, which one are you going to use? And so we made her own remedy. And then she looked at me and I said, yeah, me too. And the one that we made for me was Believe. And it's still, I think, my favorite. But collaboration, right? So, you know.
Yeah.
And bless her heart, she's since passed, but she was a big healer, Martha Burgett. Big shout out to you.
Yes, to Martha, because I also knew Martha in the Cochrane area. Yeah. Amazing woman. Beautiful. Well, Evelyn, thank you so much. And I look forward to the next time we talk, because I know you have a few things percolating on the back burner. And so as life brings it around to being part of your present moment, then I look forward to that next conversation.
Well, this one's really fun. And that's my motto. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing. So it's going to be really fun.
Oh, well, you've been listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, and the phrase that I kind of finished with today, I've noticed that these phrases have been popping out, is, may the herbs in your garden grace you with the tremendous power to support your dreams. Thank you so much for listening and being with us today.